It's Quinns' birthday, Ivor, Mrs. Griffiths explained nervously. You're just in time for I know what day it is. Her husband spoke the words slowly through clenched teeth, as though the taste was bitter. There are candles wasting in the kitchen, chairs on the floor, and look at this, litter. He flung out his hand, indicating the table. Sit down, Ivor Griffiths, you miserable man, said Nine, and celebrate your son's birthday. Miserable, is it? Mr. Griffiths' big red hands were clasped tight across his chest, one hand painfully rubbing and pressing at the other. Miserable, is it, to be remembering my own daughter who is gone, my daughter who went this day 4 years ago? Suddenly, Mrs. Griffiths stood up. Enough! We've had enough, Ivor, she protested. We remember Bethan too. We've mourned her, going on every year on this day for 4 years. But it's Quinns' birthday, and we've had enough of mourning. Enough, enough, enough. She was almost crying. Gwyn turned his head away. He did not want to look at the bright colours on the table, did not want to see his friends' faces. He knew that his birthday was over. His mother was talking, but he could not listen to the words. She was taking his friends away. He heard them shuffling into the kitchen, murmuring goodbye, but he could not move. His father was still standing by the table, sad and silent in his black suit. How could you do that, Ivor? Nine reproached her son at the front door, as the front door slammed. How could I? I have done nothing. It was that one. And he looked at Gwyn. She is gone because of him. My Bethan is... It was said. Gwyn felt almost relieved. He got up slowly, pushed his chair neatly back to the table. Then, without looking at his father, he walked out of the kitchen. His mother was standing by the sink, waving to the Lloyds through the narrow window. She swung round quickly when she heard her son. I'm sorry, Gwyn, she said quietly. So sorry. She came towards him and hugged him close. Her face was flushed, and she put her apron on again. It was a great party, ma'am, thanks, said Gwyn. The other boys liked it too. I know they did. But I wanted your father to... It doesn't matter, ma'am, Gwyn interrupted her quickly. It was grand. I'll always remember it. And he drew away from his mother, ran up to his room, where he sat at the edge of his bed, smiling at the memory of his party and the way it had been before his dad had arrived. Gwyn knew his father could not help the bitterness that burst out of him every now and then, and he had acquired a habit of distancing himself from the ugly words. He thought hard about the good times until the bad ceased to exist. A tiny sound caused him to go to the window, and there was a light in the garden, a lantern swaying in the evening breeze. Gwyn opened the window. Who's there? He called. He was answered by a high girlish laugh, and then his grandmother's voice. Remember your gifts, Gwydion Gwyn. Remember Math, Lord of Gwynedd. Remember Gwydion and Gilfaethwy. Are you being funny, Nine? There was a long pause, and then the reply. It's not a game I'm playing, Gwydion Gwyn. One is every 7 generations. The power returns, so they say. Your father never had it, nor did mine. Let's find out who you are. The gate clicked shut, and the lantern went swinging down the lane, while the words of an old song rose and fell on the freshened wind, and then receded until the light and the voice faded altogether. Before he shut the window, Gwyn looked up at the mountain and remembered his 5th birthday. It had been a fine day, like today, but in the middle of the night a storm had broken. The rain had come pouring down and the mountainside in torrents. boulders and branches rumbling and groaning in its path. The Griffiths family had awakened, pulled the blankets up closer to their heads, and fallen asleep again, except for Gwen. His black sheep was still on the mountain. He had nursed it as a motherless lamb, himself tucking it in Mam's old jumper, cosy up by the fire, feeding it with a bottle 5 times a day until it had grown into a fine ewe.